What's going on, Dragon Brawlers? Scott Sedman, your Guildmaster of Players Guild, back again with a Dragon Ball video talking about the teased new leader mechanic, what it could be, what I think it's going to be, and some guesses from the community. Let's get straight into it. So, during the Dragon Ball Games Battle Hour 2022, great event by the way, we got a few little teasers for future Dragon Ball content. One of them being this that I'm showing on screen right now, and essentially they teased a card going on top of your leader, and then at the very, very end of that trailer, after all of the like, ooh, fancy stuff, we have a spiral forming next to the leader area. Now, could this just be pretty effects? Totally, 100%. That is a valid reading of the interpretation. But for me, and coming from a film background, you wouldn't draw focus to this if it wasn't important. This obviously is indicative of something, whether that be a new area or something that can be played from outside of our normal area. So not the warp, not necessarily your drop. It's above your life. So I think I do strongly believe it's a new area or a new deck, a new type of deck. And yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. But let's get into the meat and bones of this video, guys. Let's talk about what's going to happen to leaders in the new series, whatever it's going to be. Apparently, it's going to continue Unison Warriors, but like have a different name or like Limit Break. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows? Um, and so yeah, what we saw was a card going on top of leader, and then obviously it's now blank and powered up. There was a really cool pulsing effect. So definitely some form of power up for the leader. And now I think the main two camps forming is that it's either a card that works like evolve, so a card in your main deck that can evolve on top of your leader, which I think is a very valid way of looking at it. I think that could be viable. Or it's like an extra allowing you to go into a second Third Awakening type situation. Now, let's look at the first one. Let's look at the pros and cons of that. Pros, it's enhancing leaders, bringing them further, right? They're not just a draw utility. Like, bringing some relevance back to leaders, like when they were back in the start of the game, where your leader effect basically ruled what your deck did. Nowadays, it's basically which leader can be the most effective for what my deck does. That's not always the case. There are some fringe cases like Dark Broly. You need the Dark Broly leader to do Dark Broly things. But generally, it's you're looking for a generically good leader. It doesn't really matter too much what it does as long as it can draw. Again, there are fringe cases. That's just generally rule of thumb. So maybe bringing a new outlook onto leaders is not a bad thing at all. And the best thing I can see from this, if they're in the main deck, is that they're cards that you can combo with. So almost like extra cards that have combo power. Because we can't have any more clogging in hand, right? We already have Unisons which don't have combo. Yes, there are ways to get them out quicker. Yes, there are ways to get rid of them and use them as a resource for like discard a card from your hand. But the general thing is, if you draw a Unison, it's kind of dead in hand, generally speaking. And yeah, so if we have another type of card like that in the main deck, that gets kind of scary in terms of like what you can and can't use in your hand, right? Because extra cards, while they're great in hand, they're still no combo cost, so essentially they're there for that utility and that's it. Unisons, again, cannot be comboed. So this new form, if it's in the main deck, needs to be able to be played really easily, or based in some form of combo-based system, which I think would be cool. So like my closest thing to think of with that is like armaments, equipment. So you could put, say, in power armor, scouters, all that kind of thing. And I think that's a really cool way of looking at it. And that would be the best way of implementing it if it was in the main deck. I personally don't think it's going to be in the main deck. I don't see us having that much room in there to implement that, along with brand new strategies and styles going forward. Like, the more our decks need to be consistent and change, having this random element that powers up our leader just isn't the case. I just do not see that being a thing. Next up, we have the extra deck idea, which I think has more credence, again, with the spark that I'm showing on screen. But we also have the idea, like, I feel like Dragon Ball's teased this idea quite a bit. Like, Unison Warriors was like a secondary leader. The Warp was added, so it's not unprecedented for them to add new areas. A new deck entirely is kind of interesting. And so this deck could be maybe made up of 5 cards. And essentially they act as, when you reach X, you can play this card on top of your leader. So, for example, I'm playing as Namek Goku, right? Just Son Goku, not Super Saiyan or anything. If your leader is Son Goku and you go down to 1 life, you may play this card on top of your leader, and then it becomes Super Saiyan Goku, legendary Super Saiyan Goku. And that has a whole new dynamic and changes their forms, whilst still being, like, not having to change your leader. This is something I discussed briefly when I posted it in the Facebook page. Shout out to the Dragon Ball Super Card Game Community Discussion Group. You're awesome. Like, looking at it, like, right, so we've got to a point in the game where most forms are kind of in the game. Sans Heroes, we'll talk about that in a second. But every time we get a new form, be it Super Saiyan Goku, Kaioken, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan 4, there's always a new leader, and it's kind of, I don't know how you say, it's almost redundant to a point, right? Because it's like, oh, it's another Goku leader, oh, it's another this leader, another Vegeta, another Broly, whatever. So rather than having that, which has been a common criticism, myself, I've definitely fed back that to Bandai before. I know a lot of other people feel the same way. That's like, well, we're just getting the same characters as leaders because, well, it's a new form. So this kind of mitigates that, and allows for more creativity with leaders. And it really does enhance the way of what the Unison Warriors is all meant to be about, is continued support. It's like, well, we'll give you a leader in this start of this next series, but then we have this new mechanic that will continue to boost them up throughout the series. And I think that could be really cool. I honestly think that's a really cool way of doing it, because I know how much I love playing decks like the Xeno Trunks. I have so much fun with that at the moment. I know it's technically not out yet, but I have so much fun with it. And I love SS4 deck, like, it's one of my favourite forms. So being able to utilise those forms without having to play, I don't want to say bad leaders, but not meta-relevant leaders. I think it's cool. Like, and so take Mechikabura, for example. I love the deck, I play it a lot. I'm going to be playing it at Dragon Ball Fest. But rather than make a new leader for Time Powered Unleashed, we could have this new extra deck version of it that goes on top of your awakened Mechikabura leader. Oh, it doesn't even need to be awakened, right? Like, it could just be a certain condition is met. X life, X cards in drop, can tie it into Unisons. I don't think they are going to tie it into Unisons straight away. If they were going to tie it into Unisons, I feel like a Unison would be on board for this, but I could be wrong. Again, this is only a teaser and not representative. This is just speculation on our part. And I think the most likely part of that is going to be like, and I think it's going to be more of a limit break mechanic. So we've seen how Awakening is used offensively, defensively. Like, leaders are the core point of the game. There's 3 core points of the game, and that being life, combat, and leader. Those are the 3 things Dragon Ball's had since the start. All of them been powerful tools in the arsenal, and going back and revisiting one of those is very interesting. So that's why I think you're almost like you're able to pull this card from somewhere else, because it is like that last burst of power, like the spocking, going beyond your limits just to power up and try and push back against your opponent. I think it could be a really good mechanic. We know that there's limitations on boards, but not necessarily leaders, so maybe brings back that powerful leader swing. Maybe helps decks like the old Jiren strategies where they would get quadruple strike, but it's basically like, oh, well, you know it's coming, so you're just going to negate the leader swing. Maybe there's something different here that can stop that. who knows? The actual possibilities of this are limitless. We know it's definitely something regarding leaders, because obviously, why would you focus on leaders? Why would you show Godku getting a card placed on top of it and then obviously powering up? It would make no sense for you not to be doing a leader-based thing with that. And I think it genuinely could be something really exciting. Like, my personal thoughts is on that limit break style mechanic, where like it is that extra boost and it's triggered off stuff. Maybe it has cost. Maybe it has cost attached to it. Who knows? Which is why I think it needs to be in an extra deck, is because you can have this like little small deck of just like, well, I've got this if I need to, and then they can only be temporary, right? Because we've seen it time and time again in Dragon Ball is how power-ups are temporary. Be it Super Saiyan 3 Goku, like, basically limits his time, or you get knocked out of a form. Like, I think that could be really cool. Like, there's so much interesting thing you can do with that. And have it offensively and defensively. Like, have a defensive one, have an offensive one. And I think it just opens a bunch of new doors. And you can always limit it by, like, you have to have X memory, X life. And yeah, overall, it's a really interesting concept. Like, there's other ideas floating around as well that I think if people are interested in, we'll make more videos on, such as like quest cards. And again, I want to come back to that equipment at some point. Equipment deck could be a thing. I believe Loki was talking about something related to the WoW TCG, so I'd kind of like to get his thoughts on that, probably on our podcast that we do. Check out Card Game Cast or Card Cast. I can't remember which one we call it. Where we talk about pretty much everything in the TCG space that we care about. And yeah, guys, let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Are we going to get a Leader 2.0? Are we getting a second Third Awakening? Is it a limit break? Is it going to be a new area? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And we'll see if we're right in a couple of sets' time, because I do not believe this is for UWA. I tried to reach out to get confirmation, didn't get confirmation in time. If I do get confirmation in between now and then, I will pin it in the comments below. And yeah, just I hope everyone's well. Hit that like button if you're new and subscribe. And we'll see you next time. Bye.